Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to lesson 11 of Straight Path Academy Arabic Volume 1, Reading Arabic Letters. In this lesson, we'll be learning two new letters. Firstly, this is the letter Ain. And the letter Ain, it sounds like an ah sound coming from the throat. Ah. For example, when we say Assalamu alaikum, the ah sound in alaikum is the letter Ain. So for the transliteration, we're just going to write the letter A with an arrow above to symbolize this sound coming from the throat. And as I've previously mentioned, right now at this stage of our Arabic journey, we don't want to overly emphasize on trying to pronounce everything perfectly. Right now, we just want to understand that the letter Ain is kind of like pronouncing an ah sound from the throat. This is how the letter Ain looks alone. It sort of has a hook above and a hook below, but when it begins a connection, it just keeps that hook above and then connects to the next letter. When it's in the middle of a connection, it looks kind of like a smushed circle, like somebody just took a circle and squeezed the top of it, smushed it down. And then when it ends a connection, it still has that smushed circle shape, but there's also that hook underneath. And this is the letter Ain. And next we have the letter Ghain. And the letter Ghain sounds kind of like the combination of G and H in English. Has a R sound. For example, the prayer at sunset is called Maghrib. That R sound in Maghrib is the letter Ghain. So we're going to use a G and H for the transliteration. And the letter Ghain looks exactly like the letter Ain, except there's a dot above. So this is how it looks alone, and this is how it looks in the beginning, middle, and end of a connection. And now it's time to practice by completing the exercise. So let's try number 10 together. First, we identify the letter. That hook shape coming up at the beginning of a connection with a dot above means that this is the letter Ghain. So we're gonna write a G, H for the letter Ghain. A line underneath means that this haraka is a kesra, so we write an I for the kesra. So we would pronounce this letter in haraka like ghi, ghi. The next letter is in the middle of a connection, and we see it looks like a circle that was squished, and there's no dot, so this is the letter Ain. So for the letter Ain, we're gonna write an A with a little arrow above it, symbolizing that sound that comes from the throat. The haraka we find above the letter Ain is a dhamma, so we're gonna write a U for the dhamma. So the way this letter in haraka would sound is au, au. And then the third letter we find at the end of a connection is that squished circle with a hook coming down and a dot above, which means this is the letter Ghain. So we're going to write a G, H for the letter Ghain. And then above the letter Ghain, we see two fathas. So we write A for the first fatha and N for the tanween. So this would be pronounced as Ghan, Ghan. So finally, if we pronounce this combination of letters in harakat, we would say Ghi, Au, Ghan, Ghi, Au, Ghan. And let's try one more together. We'll try one with a bunch of different letters, as well as the ones that we learned in this lesson. Let's do number 31. So first we identify the letter. This snail-like shape with no dot is the letter Sod. So we're going to write an S with a dot underneath to differentiate it from the letter Sin and let us know that this is heavy. The haraka above the letter Sod is a fatha, so we write an A for the fatha. So the Sod and fatha would be pronounced like Saw, Saw. As for the next letter, we find it in the middle of a connection, and it's a squished circle with a dot above, which is a letter that we learned in this lesson, the letter Ghain. So we write a G, H for the letter Ghain. The haraka above the letter Ghain is a fatha, so we write an A for the fatha. So together this would be pronounced Gha, Gha. The next letter we find is a wave-like shape with a dot underneath, meaning this is the letter Jim. So we're going to write a J for the letter Jim. And beneath the letter Jim, we find a kesra. So we write I for the kesra. So together this would be pronounced as G, G. Next we find another wave-like shape, but this has no dot, meaning it's the letter Ha, which is a sharp H. So we're going to write a capital H for the letter Ha. And above the letter Ha, we have a fatha. So we write an A for the fatha. So this would be pronounced as Ha, Ha. And then finally, at the end of a connection, we find that squished circle shape with the hook coming down. It has no dot, so we learned today that this is the letter Ain, which has that ah sound coming from the throat. So we write an A with an arrow above to represent the letter Ain. Above the Ain, we find Tanween Dhamma. So we write a U for the Dhamma and N for Tanween. So this would be pronounced as Un, Un. So let's see if we can read this entire combination of letters and harakat together. Sa, Ra, Ji, Ha, Un. Sa, Ra, Ji, Ha, Un. That does it for this lesson. Keep up the great work. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.